There's a popular conception or maybe misconception that a typical Magnolia project is like a good for a medium-sized website. It's solid and it's something you can do for a medium-sized corporate website, which will work very well. But it's not usually associated with this kind of project, which is what we're going to talk about today. The relaunch of the corporate website for Migros, Switzerland's largest retailer, and the problems we've been running into and what we did to solve these problems. Just to give you an idea, Migros.ch is a big multi-site portal type kind of a website which has more than 11,000 content pages and lots of page templates and paragraph templates.
Yeah, thank you, Jan. Just 2 words about the Magnolia relaunch we did with the page. We did this relaunch in 2010. Our old system was based on Microsoft SharePoint. It was not easy to use. It was difficult to extend the website, and also expensive to maintain and support the site. Our plan was to keep the content, keep the workflows for our editors, and fix the problems above we had with the old system. The requirements for the new system were an easy-to-use system for our editors, a live preview mechanism, and a way to easy connect to other systems around Migros, and one central hub for our content repository, also for the use for other systems as well. And main focus, like other projects, saving costs. Yeah, that's why we chose Magnolia. The result of that was that we have a project running in 6 months, starting with conception phase, development, migration of all the content sites, and rollout within 6 months. Since there, our system is very stable running, nearly no downtime, and we have the same workflows in place, a little bit improved them, and have a return of investment already after a few months. Then, yeah.
Yeah, during the relaunch, we implemented some pretty cool features. I'm just going to show you a couple of those. One of them, as Daniel just said, Migros had from the start had planned to use Magnolia as a data hub. That is, they want to keep and work on the data in Magnolia and then deliver them to other systems. What you see here is the product offer data that Migros imports once a week from their backend ERP systems. They keep them in Magnolia, improve them, enrich them, and then export them to other systems, like for instance to the MGO iPhone app. Another pretty cool feature we implemented was a teaser management. Migros uses, technically speaking, teasers for Migros are content pages, which can be placed on other content pages. So you can basically have teasers and place them on whatever page you want. Actually, you can place more than one teaser in one place and then have a logic. We've implemented a kind of logic that allows you to show different teasers at different times of the day according to priority, according to time. So this is the screen you see here.
Okay. Yeah. As I said before, we started with one project, and after this 1.5 or 2 years, the one project grows to one portal. As we see here on the graph is that we have several projects going on since the relaunch in 2010, starting with a label page called Aus der Region für die Region, then the whole Cumulus relaunch of the website, also included in our portal, and then in 2012 the Generation M big campaign from marketing perspective. Yeah. All them sub-projects were built in a short time frame, since 1.5 years. Just to show you some pictures of that of them sub-projects. We have separate themes, separate templates, but one Magnolia web app, one project, and one content repository for all of the sub-projects. We have a really huge development road on the portal. We have over 250 change requests per year. We have to handle with different stakeholders within Migros, like marketing, corporate communication, and also our regional cooperatives like Aare, Zurich, Basel, and so on. One main thing that we have is that our budgets are only investigated for visible features for end users. So our stakeholders wouldn't provide us budget for improving our backend system or the software architecture for the whole project itself. This graph will show you an example of our release plan for the first half of 2011. We started with a really continuous release management, and then in March we come to the point where we have several projects coming up in parallel, and we have to develop and handle them. As you can see, we have to develop parallel, release parallel, and also have the tested cycles parallel. What you could not see in the graph is that are also the major releases. We have several bug fix releases going on several systems.
Right. And this is not all of the releases we did. Actually, we did about twice as many, or 2.5 times as many.
That's correct. And at the end, all comes together in end of May, June, to one package again. So that was a big challenge.
I'll take over.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So basically, what you can see in this slide is that we're dealing, at a certain point, we're dealing with 3 different kinds of a common software stack at the same time. We have one version that's running just the first original site, one version running, that's the version 5, and it's different iterations, that's running the additional project aus der Region, and then we have version number 6, which is running the new site Cumulus. The problem is not that we're handling new functionality. The problem is that we have 3 different common stacks all in one. So we have 3 versions of the same project which we're trying to develop and release at the same time. And then, of course, we have to go back and integrate them. So the complexity of the entire project is growing very rapidly. We have new modules coming in. The size is growing because at the same time that we're having the new modules, we're also working on the old modules and adding features there. And we're still using the architecture that we started with. That's basically, we have Magnolia, and then we've built a web app containing the first project plus a theme, and then we're just added modules for new projects. But the common functionality, the common stack, if you will, is still in the first project. So we have a situation where all new projects basically depend on the first project, which means we're having a lot of side effects, aka bugs. Which also means that when you make a change in one project, you will have to test all the other projects again, which means testing becomes very expensive, and it also slows down the project. So we decided we had to change something, and then we looked into an unexpected direction, into the direction of Magnolia, because we thought, why not do it like Magnolia themselves? Magnolia itself has a modular architecture. If you look at the diagram here, you see that Magnolia actually is a collection of modules. So what we thought, why shouldn't our project be a collection of modules as well? So what we started to do was remove the dependencies between the individual sub-projects and put all the common stuff into modules as well. So if our architecture at the start of the project looked like this, Magnolia and our web app on top and a theme, then the organic growth of the project led to a situation that was like this. We had new modules for Cumulus and for Aus der Region, which depended on the basic functionality, which was still in with the first project in what you see in orange here. So this is what we wanted to get away from, and we came up with something like this. Now we had two common modules, which actually one is building on the other one. So we have a set of common templates in the Migros common templating module, and then we have our sub-projects which use and extend these templates. So basically at this point we don't have any cross-dependencies anymore between sub-projects. But then we thought, before we create a new bottleneck in the form of a huge common module, why not take features out of the common module as well and create modules for features, like we have cooking recipes, or we have a capture implementation that we're using on forms. So stuff like that can also be put into its own modules. So currently we're in a situation where we have on the right hand side you see something from that's basically just a view of the Subversion repository, and you see that we have about 25, or I think we counted it was over 25 Magnolia modules, which all of them have their own distinct software lifecycle. So they're completely independent from each other in Subversion, and basically are just using each other on as Maven modules. And each of them has its own release cycle. As you see on the left, those are the release notes for for a version of the Cumulus module that we released in June of this year. So the result is we have a better software architecture, which obviously is also less expensive. So we have less dependencies, which leads to less technical complexity, which is easier to understand for developers. Obviously, if you want to have someone new in the project, but also for a developer who's been in the project before and wants to look at his own code 2 months later, for instance. At the same time, we have more reuse because now we have a set of well-documented basic templates which can be extended, and it's also easier to test, which is what we were looking for in the first place, because we want to test only that module that has actually been changed. Which means that a release for us now is just a container for a number of modules. On the left side you see the release notes for release 7.4. Release 7.4 contained changes in about, well, I think it's something like 10 or 12 different modules, which is still a lot, but when we did a bug fix release a week later, there were only changes in 3 modules. So we don't have to constantly re-release everything, but we can cut down and especially gradually, subsequently cut down on the number of modules we actually have to work on and re-release. So this is what the release cycle has looked over the last half year, where looks a bit different from 2011. Now we're having a major feature release every 5 weeks, and it's pretty much going like a train. Like we have a schedule. We know when the train is leaving, and we just put our features on the train and know when it will arrive. One other aspect is we have a much easier integration of third-party modules. Not all modules containing features necessarily have to be written by us. So we can put third-party modules in that depend directly on Magnolia, but also third-party modules that build on our common Migros templating stack. So putting in a third-party module is pretty much as easy as this. You just add a software dependency in Maven. Actually, this is an example of a module that was done by somebody who's also here at the conference, and it's basically you just add the software dependency, start up the system, and do a few tests. But it's as easy as that. Just to show you another example, this is a case where the software wasn't packed as a Magnolia module. This is a Flash microsite Terra Suisse with an HTML fallback written in PHP. We had at Aperto just took this third-party functionality and packaged it as a Magnolia module, and then it behaves just as any Magnolia module. You just put it in and run it in there. This is pretty much where we stand now. We're running on a schedule. Everything's really smooth. We can handle a lot of change requests at the same time. It's like the Swiss train system, really. Except this situation also has a downside. There's something that's not so good because this system is rigid and potentially slow. Our customer has been complaining pretty constantly that it can take up to 9 weeks before a new feature can go online, which is not what the internal stakeholders really want to hear. They would like their new features to go online next week or something like that. And of course, we're not able to promise them next week, but we want to go down from 9 weeks. So imagine this kind of scenario. You have new features in a sub-project, say in Cumulus, that require changes also in the common stack. So what we want is to focus the test and release cycle on this sub-project. So that means we want to make changes in the common stack only for Cumulus, re-release Cumulus, retest Cumulus, put this online, and then just do the rest later on. We want to defer the test and release cycle for the other sub-projects to a later point in time. So we would come up with an architecture that would pretty much look like this. You have could be 4, could be 3, could be 2, but you have separate instances. You have separate web apps, separate Magnolia instances. You can even run them on separate Tomcats and separate machines, separate address spaces if you want to. You have separate web apps that use with the separate sub-projects and which may use different versions of the common stack, obviously with the goal of reintegrating them when you have time for that. One problem, of course, that has to be handled at this point is that you have shared data. In the case of Migros, for instance, the product offers which should be kept in Magnolia and Magnolia's data repository as a data hub shouldn't be kept redundantly in several instances. That would completely destroy the plan. So we've come up with the concept of something like a master project web app, and this app will provide the data to the other projects via web services.
Okay. Just to summarize this modularization part of Migros.ch, what we have gained with this whole modularization stuff, we have fewer dependencies, as we mentioned, between each sub-project. We have less coordination between each sub-project when the one project needs a new feature, when the other has this less coordination stuff. Each project could run its own release cycles. We can do agile testing for each module separately. We can have the freedom to choose development teams within Aperto or also with other contractors to develop or handle resources better. And that's a point where we get more flexibility and scaling possibilities for the whole project and portal. But nevertheless, there are some more challenges that we get with this modularization. There are 3 of them. One is integration challenge. So there has to be one portal owner, and each project owner from each sub-project has to be coordinating what will the one do and the other. So there needs to be more coordination, and also correspondingly for development teams and project owners as well, to prevent double developments. Projects have to share information each other, because if the one project needs to implement social media things, and the other things, yeah, that would be a nice idea, and each of them implement it in their own way, then we can't use synergies of them. So they have to speak what's going on in the project. And there is continuous development of the common stack. So this is also one integration challenge you have to handle. So there's the sub-project going on each side, and also the common stack where all the projects are using common functionality. The second challenge will be management. So if you have several editors, as we have, like hundreds, which instance should the editor use if you spread the sub-project into Magnolia, separate Magnolia instances? Our support have to handle the access right management, also have to support several platforms, not only one as it is now, and do also several deployments on each system, where we have on each instance 3 testing, QA testing, and production. The third challenge would be the cost perspective. So hosting and maintenance of all the several environments for the projects are one cost factor. And also the second point is who will pay for functionality that you put into the common stack that can be reused by other projects. But because the project owner of one sub-project will be only responsible for his garden and would not pay for other projects or marketing activities. So that's really a big challenge for us.
Yeah, to sum up, Magnolia is good for large multi-project portal-type sites. We found out, not for the first time, that too much complexity makes projects expensive and makes them slow. We know now that modular architecture helps reduce complexity. And what we did find out is that Magnolia offers an excellent foundation for this. You can leverage Magnolia's modular architecture to build projects like this. Of course, you have to do it. Separate deployment of sub-projects provides even more agility, but if you have several platforms, of course, you will have to support them as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
If it comes to a change in the architecture where you have this common stack and the applications, did you ever think of change your organization so you have a separate organization unit who is responsible for this common stack? Because that makes a lot of sense, because then you have someone responsible for the releasing and for the management of this common functionality.
Yeah.
Question to you.
As I said, that's the coordination part between sub-project and portal owner. As I said, portal owner will be this person or persons who are responsible for that common stack. Because if one project says, I want this functionality, and maybe we have that functionality already in the common stack, then someone should told him that we have this functionality and other sides. So yeah,
this organizational unit is then something like a service to the other to the other departments.
Exactly. And should be involved in new project or new feature requests and so on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello. Just a small question. What remains of the efforts? I mean, what remains of the first effort to modularize the whole thing after you introduced the second stage, where you put all those modules on separate platforms, on separate web apps? Didn't you give away many of the advantages you had in the first place when you introduced the second phase?
No, actually not. It may look like this at first, but we're still dealing with one very distinct common stack, which just evolves in versions. It would have evolved in versions anyway. We're not planning to leave sub-projects behind. So we're not planning to have in the medium term. We're not planning to have a situation where one sub-project is running on the latest version and another one is just being left behind and running on a version of that's 2 years old forever. What we want to have is the agility to bring a new feature in one of the sub-projects online very, very quickly and just do everything else afterwards. Of course, it means you still have to do it. You just don't have to do it now. So, but yeah, obviously we have to do some reintegration, but we do still have the modular architecture of the single components. We have the common stack, which is in its own modules, and we have the projects, which are in their own modules. Hope that answers the question.
You told the first relaunch took about 6 months. How many developers were involved?
How many developers were involved? Concurrently?
No. When you made the first relaunch?
We had something like 3 or 4 back-end developers at the same time, plus obviously graphic designers, front-end developers.
And they were already experienced using Magnolia, or?
No, actually it was a mixed team. There was a core of developers who were experienced Magnolia developers, but we also had some new people which we integrated into the project.
Okay. And
I think which is something very common in Magnolia projects generally, because Magnolia is growing so fast that you have to bring new people in.
And are there points you don't like about Magnolia? After
yes, come and have some coffee with me.
Hi, I have the same questions for the 250 change requests per year that you receive. How many people are working on those change requests?
We have, we're working in about the same team strength, pretty much constantly. So it's the curve doesn't look like this, but it's more or less like this, like a wave, like a continuous wave. So yeah, pardon me? Yeah, around between 3 and 4 people. Okay, thank you.
Good. Thank you.